Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down to talk about a very important Xbox Game Pass Day 1 title. One thing that we've pushed for a lot here on this channel, a lot on Defining Duke, has been Xbox investing more in Japanese games, whether they be exclusives, which we have yet to see, but they're saying are on the way, that they're working on more original Japanese Xbox games, or of course, Day 1 Game Pass titles. And Xbox has been ramping things up on that side. We have Elden Chronicles, 100 Heroes, we have Lies of P, and now we have Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. All three of these games look excellent, and as someone whose favorite genre right now is the Japanese role-playing game, we are eating good, and the value certainly looks to be there. Now, one of the first ones coming up is Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. A demo is out right now that you can try out on Xbox, on PlayStation. It's available for a limited time. I played it for a couple of hours, and I'm excited to share some thoughts in today's video on a game that I think is very important to the Xbox community, but also one that I'm just really excited about. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, you like previews, impressions, reviews, all that stuff, consider subscribing. Now let's talk about Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. For those who don't have any history on the developer here, this comes from Team Ninja. You may be familiar with them if you're an Xbox fan, thanks to the likes of Ninja Gaiden, a series that I would love to see come back now that Team Ninja is just on one. However, more recently, you may be familiar with their work on the Nioh franchise, Nioh 1, Nioh 2. Both games I've platinumed, both games are wonderful, and Nioh 2 was in my top 3 game of the year when it came out in 2020. Absolutely fantastic game, and if you see that remastered collection, go pick it up. This is a wonderful competitor in the Souls genre. It's right there, toe-to-toe with what FromSoft's doing, in my opinion. I adore Nioh 2. So knowing that now they're taking some of the ideas from Sekiro and applying them here to Wo Long had me curious. With that in mind, a bit of a Matty history lesson just so you have some context. Okay, so this is not a popular opinion. I do respect Sekiro, but it's one of those games that just didn't vibe with me. Sometimes you just have those titles. Certainly I've learned recently, like Yakuza Like a Dragon didn't click with me. As a huge JRPG fan, you think this is a slam dunk for Matty. Anything but. So sometimes these games just don't gel when you think they're going to, and it's a very upsetting experience. Sekiro was one of those. I went in thinking, oh, I'm going to dig this. I played it, I beat Genichiro, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I've seen enough. I'm not really into this. So I moved on. Now, what has me excited is that Wo Long could potentially be my answer to Sekiro. It's still tough to this day for me to put my finger on why I didn't gel with Sekiro. I think it's just the RPG elements were missing. I wasn't looking for an action-adventure title from FromSoftware, and I have to say that some of the satisfaction wasn't there for me. Not that it was an easy game, but just when I overcame the challenge, I was like, all right, cool. That's not the feeling I'm looking for in a FromSoft game. I'm looking for the, oh yeah, getting in my TV's face and cussing it out, right? That's what I'm looking for. I wasn't getting that from Sekiro, but again, I know that is absolutely a hot take, a rare take, and I totally respect if you're into that. For me, though, Wo Long does look like that answer to what I was looking for in Sekiro. As a RPG fanatic, when I see numbers, stats leveling up, plus the same mechanics of another game, I get excited because it feels like an evolution on what was previously done and an answer to my personal desires, my personal taste. So, did it answer the bell? Yes, kind of, sort of, but I do have some concerns where I think Sekiro did shine a bit brighter. So, as you would imagine with a game that is very much like Sekiro, but is also different, one of the things it focuses on a lot is a stamina gauge. It's called the spirit gauge in this game, but just think of it the same way as the stagger gauge that you saw in Sekiro. Instead of attacking their health bar, you will attack the spirit gauge. When the spirit gauge is maxed out, they will be open for effectively a killing blow, or at least highly critical damage, and that is sometimes, depending on who you're fighting, what you want to attack. You can also attack the body, if you will, and hit that health bar down and kill them that way, but there's a little less finesse to that, but you can still do it, and in a lot of occasions, it is encouraged. So very much like Sekiro on a mechanical level. However, where I think that this game stumbles a little bit, while Sekiro gets it right, is audio feedback. One of the things I did love about the deflecting in Sekiro is you can hear the clanging of the swords, and you can tell when you've deflected and when you've knocked someone off balance. You hear the poof, and they really slow-mo. You can feel and see the opening. You can hear the opening. Whereas in Wo Long, there is an elegant dance being done throughout combat. And when you do start to reflect, you'll notice it's not as exaggerated as Sekiro. This does give combat some flow. So when I was actually going through and dicing some people up and getting sequential deflects, wow, does it feel really good. However, there are times when you're starting off and you do deflect. I was playing it alongside a friend. I went, did I just reflect there? He went, yeah, that was actually a reflect. It is not as in your face as Sekiro, where you see the sword clang, you see them bounce back, they fade away. You realize there in that frame, oh, I got them. Here in Wo Long, it's almost like you're just sidestepping and curling around the blade, just pushing it down to the side. It's not as much of an exaggerated reaction. Keep that in mind. And because of that, there is an adjustment phase. Wo Long is difficult, but like with the best of this genre, it is so fun to master. So far, I am really enthused with how I felt I was progressively getting better. With that in mind, fighting human enemies in Wo Long is so much better than fighting the creatures. The satisfaction, the reading of the animations, the back and forth, this is where it thrives, but also I feel stumbles again, because Wo Long feels good when you're fighting another human with a blade, because you're sort of using the same skill sets between one another and matching each other's talents and seeing who's going to come out on top. Whereas when you're fighting a creature and they're coming in with big claws and you're just trying to time the dodge just right or the reflect just right, it's sometimes hard to read, especially because these characters are way bigger. So when you reflect, it's even more difficult to tell if you actually have or not. So this is a big part of the game that should be stated up front is a difficult adjustment. However, it goes far beyond that. You have a lot more tools on your belt compared to something like Sekiro, where Sekiro, you're using really the sword, you're getting some upgrades, don't get me wrong, you're getting some new tools, but this game gives you spells, this game gives you martial arts abilities, summons. This is where you start to see the Nioh vibe come in, because if you were to say, which is by the way accurate, that Nioh is a more fantastical take, a mythological take on what's happening during Nobunaga's ambition, you would be correct. But with Wo Long, take that same mythological approach, apply it to the Three Kingdoms. Same thing here, since the boss you fight is Zhang Liang, right? So for me personally, as someone who grew up playing Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors, when I saw him, I went, oh, it's him. Okay, like, I remember picking him in the roster, using him for a couple of battles. That's so cool. And for me personally, as someone who, I will not act like I know the whole history behind it, but as someone who's experienced these characters through the video games, it was very exciting to just see a familiar face pop up and know, oh, I might be able to learn more about this character. And it's where the mythological stuff, again, gets put in your face as you see him munch down on some type of crystal. And when he does, he turns all stone-like, all possessed, a completely different form. It's awesome. But back to square one, what I was talking about with magic and martial arts and whatnot, you have all of these different abilities. And at times when you're so focused on reflecting, deflecting, you might, I don't know if it'll happen to you all, but sometimes I wasn't even thinking about using those. You want to utilize everything on your tool belt, but with some tact, because you'll notice there's a gauge that goes left and right. This is a morale gauge. When you are landing attacks and killing enemies, that morale is going to go up into the blue. However, as you're starting to get hit, you're using spells, you're using martial arts, using summons, that morale is going to go down. So it's sort of a spending meter. Of course, when yours goes all the way down, much like Sekiro, boom, you're broken wide open and an enemy can inflict devastating damage on you. So again, you want to be very careful. You don't want to overspend and spam spells, even though you technically could, because if they get to you and they hit you one time, that's all it takes. You're wide open. So there is a much more careful balance here, whereas in Nioh, it was very fast paced. You had certain abilities before they got tweaked and nerfed within the remaster collection, where you could spam certain summons and stagger enemies, do tons of damage. It wasn't even fair in certain moments. It doesn't feel like, granted, this is an early impression, it doesn't feel like right now Wo Long is going to suffer from that same problem. But it was awesome to be able to use the fire style, use a martial art, call in a summon. There are lots of options for you in combat, and in turn, I do think it makes it more accessible than something like Sekiro, where again, Sekiro I didn't have a ton of trouble with. It wasn't the difficulty that really ended up putting me off. Again, I struggle to find out why. Maybe I should just give it a second chance at this point in time. But with Wo Long, just having more options on your tool belt, having that ability to level up. I love that type of stuff. So it calls my name a bit more, but it also makes it where you can step into the shoes a little easier and take on the game. Now, I talked about leveling up. It's not as so far deep and complex as something like Nioh. It's not also as loot vomity as Nioh, for a lack of better words. So with every enemy you kill, you're not going to be mashing the circle button, or in this case the B button, and picking up a ton of loot. You're just going to find it in chests, and you'll be able to sift through a decent amount of loot, don't get me wrong, but again, they tweak this stuff for demos. Maybe we're getting more than we actually typically do. You're going to get loot, you're going to equip stuff as you're running around, new weapons, new armor, all that stuff, but it's not nearly as much as Nioh, which I know for a lot of people was a big turnoff. As you're going around, you're going to kill enemies, you're going to get souls, effectively, and these souls are going to be used to spend in one of 5 trees that you'll level up. Some influencing your health, some influencing your magic, some influencing your strength, so on and so forth. And as you do this, all your stats will rise, and you have to kind of carefully pick what build you're going to go for. Now, the other key component of this game that makes it, I think, a really fun, balanced experience is your fortitude rank. So you'll see this little number at the bottom middle of the screen. That's your fortitude. And this is important to note because let's say I die to an enemy. They will go up in fortitude and I will go down. As you run around the map, you're going to find places you can plant flags, and you can eventually raise up the base fortitude rank. This is important because, yes, it does make certain enemies more difficult. I'll say Demon Souls, where Demon Souls, if you don't remember, was a game that every time you died, it became more difficult. So it was like saying to you, yeah, you got to really overcome it now. Like, you just don't back down now. We're going to come at you a little bit harder this time. So when you did overcome it, it felt really good. Same thing here with Wo Long. You died to an enemy when you were on equal footing. Maybe you were fortitude rank 18. They were rank 19. Then you die. Now they're rank 20. You're rank 13. You're sitting there going, oh, no, man. This is about to be really tough now. But when you land that starting blow and suddenly it goes from, you know, say 13 to 20 to 16 to 18. Okay, now we're on even footing. That balance, that fortitude ranking system, I really dig because it does encourage exploration. You want to find all of the flags all over the map, so eventually when you die, it feels like there's very little consequence, because once you get to the boss, if you're not fortitude rank 20, each time he kills you, he's going to be like 21, you're going to be 19. You don't want that. So it is in your best interest to explore the map, find all of these flags. I do think that may be frustrating to some, but I think it also prevents the ability to level out of certain fights, where in something like Elden Ring, one of the big complaints, well, I didn't think it was a problem, was you could go elsewhere, level up, come back, and wash a boss. I like that about the game. I never had to do it, but I love that that was an option. But in this game, it does make you very much funnel down a path and say, you still got to get good, man. And yeah, there is a difficulty to mastering everything. So systemically, I do like the game. I do think the presentation of certain openings in defense needs to be just a little more exaggerated. I think the reflecting window needs to be a little longer. There were times where I swear on my life, I had a good deflect, but it just didn't go through. And I know famous last words when anyone dies in any type of soul style game, but I swear there was an inconsistency within that. But overall, it was encouraging. One thing I do have to complain about is when this demo launched, it was broken for Xbox. It's not broken anymore. I was able to go past the tutorial. I was able to play it, but I kept getting these something went wrong messages, and they would pop up whenever. Even at one point, right as I was entering the final boss for the demo, that was not pleasant. I cannot say I condone that. So I just want to warn people, if you're playing on Xbox right now, there seems to be some issues that are not happening on PlayStation, by the way. I've talked to multiple people who have played and completed the demo over on PlayStation. No problems quite like this. But there were some technical mishaps here on the Xbox side of things. Really hoping we can clean those up before it does release, because man, that would be frustrating. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts on what I have played of Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing your thoughts on this in the comments down below, so please do fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.